All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. As we reported you the breaking news before the break with the congressman, we'll get you more details on the apparent ruling by a judge overturning the policy on organ donations. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on with that. But right now, we welcome back our good friend, General Paul E. Vallely, U.S. Army retired, chairman of Stand Up America, who was with us a couple of days ago. I guess it was Monday, General. And at the end, we agreed you'd come back because you had big updates on Syria and also, I believe, Iran. So why don't you get us started? But, of course, you know, the fact is the Obama administration made some foreign policy changes today. National Security Advisor will be Susan Rice, and if the Congress approves, it'll be Ambassador Samantha Power, who is a big interventionist. So maybe you could also touch on how that might change our policy with regard to Syria.
Well, thank you, Steve. Happy to be back with you again. As we've talked about on several programs, the changing dynamics of the Middle East on that chessboard over there, and now we see many changes occurring within Turkey. So I'd like to highlight that first. When I was over there last year, Steve, at the grassroots level, got to talk to several men and women of Turkish in Antakya and in Istanbul. And they were telling me then how that Erdogan and the government of Turkey was clamping down and being more and more restrictive on the movement of the Turkish people, on discussions, on groups. And they said, you know, we're afraid to go into a restaurant with 4 to 6 people because they're spying on us and they'll think we're conspiring to do something. So isn't it interesting? That was 8 or 9 months ago. And now we see the young people, again, 20s and 30s primarily, that are rebelling against this continued and expanding control over the population. And so here we have Turkey now embroiled in some kind of rebellion over there. We got then the Syrians and the expansion of the dominance of Iran, now who have instructed Hezbollah to send company-sized, battalion-sized units up into an area called Qusair. And, of course, they're at a standoff now there with the opposition, but a lot of body bags are going back to Lebanon each week on the number of Hezbollah that are being neutralized in their role of being the proxy force for Iran and countering what's going on with the Free Syrian Army. So
right, now you have Hezbollah involved to a large extent.
Yes, absolutely, and they're sending up units each week that go in to support Assad, but the FCA, the Free Syrian Army, are just neutralizing them in droves. I think there were only 70 body bags that went back to Lebanon last week.
So moving forward, you know, are we in the same situation? I mean, looking ahead and way ahead, I mean, those Syrian missiles are not there yet. The Russian missiles are not there yet in Syria, but that's a long ways away, I would presume. So it seems that it just continues to escalate, and you know, whether or not I mean, you say that the Hezbollah is getting their butts whipped. I also hear reports that that Hezbollah is helping to solidify take back cities that the opposition had won. So I mean, is this going to be something that's just ongoing for the foreseeable future?
Well, the report that I got today is Hezbollah and the Syrian army have really been deadlocked in a place called Qusair, Qusair, without being able militarily to occupy the city and to push the opposition forces out, which is primarily the FCA, despite the fact that Hezbollah has now dispatched over 10,000 fighters to occupy Qusair, and they're at a deadlock as of today. Now, what's also interesting on the other side is the attempt on the distraction in the eastern part of Syria on the Iraqi border. And what is happening is that we have Syrian dissidents reporting many groups of Iraqi militias, as well as Iran's Revolutionary Guard forces, along with Iran military intelligence equipped with special weapons, and they're now today on the verge of entering into Syrian soil in order to support Assad. So again, as we've laid out the chessboard, you've got Iran, Russia, Hezbollah supporting the Assad government, and they're doing everything they can to preserve it. But the Free Syrian Army is still being able to neutralize those forces in a great way.
We're talking to General Paul E. Vallely, chairman of Stand Up America, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. What about the appointment of Susan Rice to replace Tom Donilon as National Security Advisor, and the nomination of Samantha Power to replace Susan Rice? Whether or not she gets confirmed, I don't know. But she, especially, she has had some terrible things to say about Israel. She is like I said, she builds herself as a human rights activist, maybe the human rights activist of all human rights activists, and that she's constantly calling for direct intervention just about everywhere that she perceives that there's any kind of human rights violations. And when I say intervention, I'm talking about boots on the ground. So the fact that Obama would pick someone like that for a position in the UN, do you think that reflects a change in policy to any extent with regard, let's say, to Syria or elsewhere in the Middle East?
No, I think it's done in a total vacuum almost outside of what's happening in the Middle East. If you take General James Jones, who was the first National Security Council advisor to the president, now to a Susan Rice, who has no national strategic background or operational background for national security at all. So now you've got somebody totally inept, unqualified to fill the position of the senior national security advisor within the White House. Now you also send somebody who has no international experience, Samantha Power, in dealing with these representatives from over 300 countries in the United Nations. So you're swapping out doing friendship type of things, the inner circle of Obama, and so you continue to have ineptness and unqualified people that are in these key positions of power in the United States. I mean, it's unbelievable, Steve. It's just totally unbelievable.
It is. Well, welcome to the Obama administration, and going forward, we can't take our eyes off the ball of Iran. Iran seems to get lost every time something else pops up, whether it's now Turkey, or whether it's the Syrian situation, or Libya, or we talk about Benghazi, but Iran's still out there, still spinning their centrifuges.
They sure are, and they're pressing the collapse of many of the regimes in the Middle East. And what's interesting, I got a call yesterday, spent an hour on the phone with a gentleman from Tel Aviv, wanting to get my opinion on what was happening in Syria and what perhaps the Israelis should do. So the Israelis are now in a quandary over there. What's going to happen in Syria? What's going to happen in Jordan next? And Iran continues to push the envelope. And guess what? Iraq, where we spend billions and billions of dollars, basically is under the Shiite control of the mullahs and the leadership of Ahmadinejad out of Iran. Figure that chessboard out.
Not good. General, as always, I thank you. And folks, check out standupamerica.org. General?
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.